So this is section 11.2, transformation and translations of parabolas, and it's just looking at the basic equation of a quadratic and trying to understand what's all happening in the equation. What does each thing actually represent? So here is three equations being shown here. So there's the x squared one, there's the 2x squared, and then also the 1/2 x squared. So if we go to our tablet, okay, and we write it down, so this is transformation, or what we call translations. We have the basic quadratic equation. This is the basic one, where a, if a is greater than 0, meaning it's positive, then the graph will go upward. Okay, and then depending on how big a is, it does that. So if we do a less than 0, then that's a negative number, and the graph will go downward. Okay, so let's take a look at on a calculator. If I go to the calculator and go to y equals and clear out the equation, that's probably there. If I typed in, let's say, just for the example of what's in the book, if y1 is just x squared, meaning that a is going to be 1, a is 1, okay, then there's just a 1 sitting here instead of the a. We replaced it with a. Okay, so if I go to my calculator and type that in, x to the power of 2, and do zoom 6, this is what it standardly looks like. Okay, but what happens if I change the a, and so now it's y, let's make we'll make it y2, the second equation, because we won't take this one out, and that would make, let's say, that a is going to be 2. So that would make it 2x squared. So we put that in on the y equals. And so we put in 2x to the power of 2. It'll show you the first equation and then what the second equation changes will be. So here is the second one. It's a little bit further. It's being stretched upwards, or what we call vertically. It's being stretched vertically. It's actually being pulled in because it was normally a little bit further out. And so as a becomes bigger, it becomes more stretched. More stretched in the vertical direction. Okay, if we make y3 a fraction or smaller than the 1, like a half, so it would be a half instead of 2. Then it should go the opposite direction. So go down to y3, type in 1 divided by 2, x to the power of 2, and we hit graph. You can see how it goes further out. So as a becomes less than 1, okay, then it becomes less stretched. Okay, or some people say the parabola describe that. So that's what that does. So these are the things that cause that. Now the other thing that you could have an issue with is if A happens to be a negative number. So let's say it's -2, or it's A is -1, or A is -1/2. What does that do? Well, so I have equations like we could do y4 is going to be -1x squared. We could have y5 be the -2x squared, and then y6 could be -1/2x squared. So if we put those in, you can start to see what's going on. So I'm going to go down to y4, okay, and I'll put in the -1, which is the same thing as just putting in negative. So I'll just put in -x squared. Okay, and now if I hit graph, I see that it goes downward. So what's happening is the negative symbol looks like it's causing the graph to actually flip across the x-axis. So it's translated that way. So if we did that with the -2, so we'll go down to y5, we have a -2x squared. Again, it's going to flip downward, and it's going to be a little bit steeper, right? Because it's going to get stretched in the vertical direction. And the same thing if I go with this one only goes to y5. Oh, here's a y6. So I can do -1 divided by 2, and that's x to the power of 2. Okay, and now if I hit it, it's a little bit wider. But everything's flipping downward because of the negative. So one thing to put in the note is the negative here and the negative here. All the negatives in a quadratic will cause the parabola to flip downward. So negative A causes the parabola to move downward. Okay, so you can see that here in the graph. So all the negative A's are down here, and all the positive A's are here. When A is bigger than 0, then it positively goes upward. If it's A less than 0, it's negative, it makes it go downward. Okay, and as we make A bigger, it becomes more and more stretched. Okay, so those are the major points for this particular section.